Aside from the fact that I'm still alive, none of this surprises me.
To many people, Treyarch is by far the best Call of Duty developer. I'm not saying that's universal, but it's pretty amazing how many people like a developer that was basically contracted to make an interim Call of Duty while Infinity Ward created a totally new concept from the ground up with Modern Warfare. To many, Treyarch has surpassed Infinity Ward. So what happened? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx we ask the question, how did Treyarch become everyone's favorite Call of Duty developers? Now let's just say this. Call of Duty 3 is not, by any stretch, the game that lit the series on fire. That was, of course, Infinity Ward's Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. And nobody's gonna say that the other Treyarch game from before 2010, Call of Duty World at War, was anything really other than a play-it-safe World War II sequel that incorporated some of Modern Warfare's elements. But in 2010, something big happened. Call of Duty Black Ops was released. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but not a lot of Vietnam-era video games are made. Not just in the war genre, but in any genre. It's just something that people tend to avoid because it was, well, not so cut and dry. But it managed to do a Vietnam storyline without being too horrifically depressing or messed up. Fuck! I mean, it had its stumbles, but people didn't get done with the game and go, wow, the United States is evil, which is what a lot of people who came back from Vietnam said. The game also had a revamped zombies mode, which is something Treyarch did introduce in World of War, however, not to the extent of this game. In every respect, the zombies mode in Call of Duty Black Ops could have easily been its own game. Not just being a horde survival mode like in Call of Duty World of War, but having its own well-developed story that, although was significantly more absurd than the main narrative, is actually satisfying to progress through. Black Ops kind of set the standard for games going forward. I'm not going to go through a history of all the Treyarch Call of Duty games, but just from what I've said here, you can understand exactly why they got the footing they did and had the groundwork to generally make what a lot of people consider to be the superior Call of Duty games. And to put it in a way that may be somewhat contentious, but it's my opinion that Treyarch pretty much has the most artistically sound approach to Call of Duty. First, their games are always extremely well polished. I know not everyone will agree, but a lot of people think they're the most polished. Materials really have that feel that they're really that thing. And environmental design tends to be very lived in, as though there is something actually going on in the environments you occupy. But it's not just that, down to every level they pretty much have the game perfect. There's something about their HUD proportion that just feels better than the other two. There's no obstructions, there's no oddness, no awkwardness. The games just play smoother. And again, that's personal taste, but somehow it just feels like Treyarch has this magical mix in regards to their physics and movement that just works. And the movement in any Treyarch Call of Duty game seems to reflect a more punchy and yet more inertia-oriented feeling. They've also demonstrated they're absolutely the Call of Duty studio most willing to take risks and do things that people aren't necessarily demanding just because they think it will yield a better game. And while I'm not going to tell you that they have been right every single time, they've generally been pretty right. And what's interesting, although they're the most willing to try new things, they've managed to also be the most consistent of the developers. Even go back to their basic Call of Duty game, World at War, and it was a game that was well received. People really liked the zombies mode, which, by the way, grew into possibly the thing that keeps Call of Duty as interesting as it stays, regardless of whichever game you're playing. And what's even more interesting is that although some have suggested the zombies mode might make its own game better than being part of other games, they've always said they just like including it because it makes another option. To quote Jason Blundell, the director of Black Ops 3, sometimes you want to run around and have that high engagement experience, and sometimes you just want to kill the undead. The fact that that philosophy has guided the inclusion of what could very easily be a quote-unquote AA level game released on its own make every Call of Duty more worth it, and that's on Treyarch. As I said earlier, that's not to say these games are perfect. And let's just take a second to acknowledge just how amazing the sound design is in every single Treyarch game. Not only do they have incredible soundtracks and a great original score, but every single tiny little sound effect is always given such a large amount of attention. It always feels good to play the game, especially with headphones or a big stereo system. Well, Treyarch has been very consistent with all the positives in their games. They've also consistently had the worst hit detection of all of the games. Speaking at very least up until now, the Treyarch game is usually the generation's worst as far as hit detection goes. And sometimes they have some pretty sloppy levels as well, in which they'll just throw endless amounts of enemies at you and it turns into a shooting gallery of sorts. Not that that's always a bad thing, but it can get repetitive depending on exactly what it is you've been doing in the very recent past. But in a lot of cases, they're also very, very gamer friendly, especially to PC gamers. They've also done a number of great things, particularly regarding frames per second, having a in-game anti-cheat system, having dedicated servers, and a number of other things that just rub PC gamers the right way. In a lot of ways, they are the more innovative of the Call of Duty developers, though they didn't bring Call of Duty into being. They have worked very hard to make sure that at very least their games do not become stale, although some of their innovations have made it into the other Call of Duty games by the other developers. Look no further than Zombies for evidence of that. They managed to be the most consistent, take the most risks, and balance their games the best, and although their games are not flawless by any stretch, they're up this year. And in every way, that is a good thing. World War II was a bit of a letdown, to be completely honest, and, well, you know about Infinite Warfare, right? It's perhaps remembered a little bit more fondly than we all expected it to be, but it's really Black Ops 3 that was the last damn good Call of Duty game, at least in my eyes. I know that they're going to deliver a great game, and I can't wait to play it. I don't want to be the guy who breaks the glass bottle on the hype ship, because there is always the chance that this will not be that. But 2018 is probably the year that has the best chance of having a great Call of Duty since the last Treyarch one. And that actually has me looking forward to the game. Not necessarily in a foaming at the mouth kind of way, but optimistic nonetheless. Is Treyarch your favorite Call of Duty dev? If so, why? If not, who is? Leave us a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.